Serial killer Kenneth Bianchi, also known as the Hillside Strangler, and his cousin Angelo Buono embarked on a 4-month killing spree in the 1970s, raping and murdering at least 10 women in Los Angeles and Washington state. Bianchi was arrested in 1979 and condemned to 8 life sentences. After his arrest, Bianchi received dozens of love letters and marriage proposals every week from adoring female fans who were in love with him. Girls lined up in the prison waiting room to meet this tall, dark, handsome, mustachioed Italian guy who they fantasized would be their one and only stud muffin forever and ever. Oh, the titillating danger, the raw sexuality, the orgasmic excitement. Most of his groupies would do anything to please him.
Oh, baby, I can't wait to see you again.
When I began this journey to try to find out why women were attracted to convicted serial killers, I was baffled at how many beautiful, successful, desirable women wanted to have a romantic relationship with these men. It's a bizarre concept, isn't it? But you may be surprised to learn just how popular these guys are. To learn more about this phenomenon, I flew across the country to Boston to meet Dr. Jack Levin, who, it turned out, had a remarkable resemblance to Albert Einstein, with his unruly, shockingly white hair and huggable, unassuming nature. We sat together for several hours in his living room while he talked about his 40-year hobby, studying serial killers. And boy, does he know his stuff. Dr. Levin is one of the world's leading experts on criminology, author of nearly 30 books, and a professor emeritus at Northeastern University. So he knows a thing or two about a serial killer's magnetic appeal to the ladies.
Once Ken Bianchi was incarcerated and awaiting trial, he tried desperately, just like so many other sociopaths refused to give up, to try to find a woman who would give him an alibi. He did find some of these women who were willing to do that, at least temporarily. And then there was Veronica Compton, who not only would have done that, given Ken an alibi, but also was willing to attempt to kill someone in order to make it look like the real Hillside Strangler was still on the loose.
The story of Veronica Compton and Ken Bianchi reads like a romance novel that morphed into a horror flick. It all began when Veronica, a tall, blonde, gorgeous 19-year-old aspiring screenwriter in Los Angeles, was doing research for her crime-related screenplay. At the time, suspected serial killer Ken Bianchi was being held in the Los Angeles jail. So, Veronica reasoned, who better to give killer advice than a real suspected killer? Little did she know at the time that that encounter would crush 23 years of her life. In my exclusive interview with Veronica, she shared for the first time ever her infamous initial encounter with the Hillside Strangler.
Doing my research, following through as a method actor and as a method writer, I said I need to have a conversation with a real serial killer. At the time, the Hillside Strangler had come into the Los Angeles arena. Make a long story short, I went out to interview him in preparation for my script. I had him read my script to see whether or not it made sense to him.
Now, the only thing making sense in Bianchi's warped mind was, I need to get the hell out of jail so I can kill again. Enter Veronica Compton. It was a beautiful summer day in Los Angeles when Veronica walked out of the warm California sunshine and walked right into the L.A. County Jail, where Ken Bianchi's cold, dark evil awaited. I'm Joy Krause. Welcome to this episode of Killer Love Hacks, where we are exploring the impact of dishonesty, lies told and lies believed, and how they affect relationships. We'll explore extreme examples of lies told by psychopathic serial killers, as well as seemingly innocent lies told by a little wooden guy named Pinocchio, and how they may differ only in terms of intent and frequency. Pinocchio was one of my favorite childhood characters. It was funny to see his nose keep getting longer and longer. Yeah, he lied. But Geppetto still loved him, and he was still so cute. So if it was okay for Pinocchio, well, it doesn't quite work that way, does it? I learned pretty quickly that other people didn't think my lying was cute, and there were consequences. But is it ever possible to be 100% honest? 100% of the time? Oh boy, lies and unlies, truth and kind of the truth. They can all get us into so much trouble. Or hey, possibly get us out of trouble. Depending on what? Let's go explore what that what may mean. To help us figure this out, we are turning to our experts. The Hillside Strangler, a teenager who trusted a serial killer, Pinocchio, and others who are in the know. But just wait a minute here. Where is the relationship love hack in all of this? Serial killers? Pinocchio? Ah, that's the secret waiting to be discovered in this episode. To begin, let's visit with Veronica again and hear what happened during her first encounter with Ken Bianchi and how he began to hook her in with his dishonesty and deception.
I visited him almost every day in the LA County Men's Jail. I was the only visitor he was allowed to have. Yeah, it was pretty intense. And I would visit him for hours and hours each visit, to the point where he was consuming my entire life. And now remember, I'm all alone in the world at this point. I'm not seeing my family every day like I was. I had just bought a mobile home, a double mobile home in Carson City, California, building up my credit. And so he called me all the time. And I couldn't believe it, that he could access the phone like that, but he did. And it was just a very bizarre situation.
Whoa! Let's put the brakes on here for a minute. How bizarre would it be to get a phone call from a convicted serial killer? I mean, wouldn't it be obvious that the guy was a con man just sizing us up for the kill? What would it take to get suckered into believing anything he said? Well, here's what it took for Veronica Compton.
They say that sociopaths don't have the capacity to feel guilt, and that they tend to be very charismatic and manipulative. You take somebody like Bianchi that has a motive, and believe me, it makes perfect sense. The first thing you want to do is get out of prison, and especially if you want to kill people. So you got the charisma going and the ability to manipulate their own emotions, where they can cry. And he cried, and he looked like a little angel to me. I mean, he did. He had this little child face. When he told me he was going to be murdered by Angela Bono, he literally is like this at the window, crying tears with his hands like this.
Now picture this. Here is a man who has tortured, raped, and murdered many women. He's crying. He's pleading. He needs her so much. He's innocent, and she's the only person who can help him. What could he have possibly said to her that would make her believe him?
I love you so much. You know, he's got a phone in his hand. You're my angel. If I'd have met you before, none of this would have happened. Oh, you know, and I mean, it just, being a mother, being a woman, and a young woman, it was really moving, because here was a grown man crying like a baby and saying that I'm his Messiah, his Savior, and that no one would have been hurt if he'd have met me because I'm so wonderful.
Sounds wonderful, doesn't it? He loves her. Okay, so he's a bad boy. But look, he's different. He's so sensitive and vulnerable and sincere. Remember, Veronica was just a teenager, innocent, and she was falling in love. The screenplay that she wanted to write was turning into a soap opera. And a sensational soap opera it was. It had all the melodramatic components: romance, emotional and moral conflict, and a blockbuster ending. It was Hollywood at its finest, if it were fiction. But for Veronica, it was reality, and it all happened because she made the nearly fatal mistake of trusting an untrustable man. All right, we're talking about lying and dishonesty, and there are different levels. So let's try to put dishonesty into perspective. One way to measure lying is with sound. So the biggest of big lies, the serial killer hillside strangler type, would sound something like this. And the littlest of little lies, the Pinocchio type, would sound something like this. Can you picture that? Maybe, right? Well, let's try to visualize lies if we can. Okay. Have you ever played the tumbling tower game, where you begin stacking up wooden blocks? That first layer? Yeah, that's solid. No problem here. Then you stack up another layer. No, not quite as solid. Maybe a little shaky. Still, no big deal. Then the next layer. You're holding your breath. And you pick up that block, close your eyes, and lay it down. Whoa, imagine that. It worked. See? It worked. I can do this. I'll just put one more down. That's how I picture little white lies. They may seem safe and innocent at first, but if they're stacked up higher and higher, they may cause a relationship tower to tumble. Oh, come on. Little white lies in a relationship are so innocent, aren't they? Well, I've got a little white lie story for you. One time I asked my husband if my new jeans made my butt look fat. He said, "No, honey, not at all." Now, I knew those jeans made my butt look like a Kardashian clone, and I was already furiously Googling ladies' tops that completely cover your butt. It seemed like such a little thing, an honest attempt at not wanting to hurt my feelings. But I knew it wasn't true, and I sort of wanted the truth, and I knew I needed the truth. It's hard to describe that moment because it was such a tiny, microscopic feeling of dishonesty. I understood the reason behind it, but I never quite trusted his opinion about my clothes again. So the question we've been exploring in this episode is this: is a little bit of dishonesty okay? Or is it okay to tell little lies? Because really, can we honestly never, ever be dishonest? Or is it okay to be dishonest for what we feel are honest reasons? I've corresponded with and met some of the world's most notorious serial killers, and I knew every word out of their mouth was a lie. For them, telling huge, malicious lies is like breathing, because they don't have a moral compass or a conscience. So it's tempting to say, now that's really lying. I don't tell those kinds of lies. Probably not. Our lies are generally smaller, perhaps well-meaning, or just easier or lazier responses in certain situations. Look, I still say things like, "Your email must have gone to spam," or "I'm late because I was stuck in traffic," or "I only bought those shoes because they were on sale." Not true. Sure, my gut tells me not to say things like that, and I know there might be consequences, but it all seems so harmless at the time. But I wonder if there's an invisible line that dishonesty crosses, a line that may push little lies into bigger lies, a line that can either move our relationship along undisturbed or tip it over. And there's something else to consider. Is this line different for every person and for every relationship? And will we know it if we've crossed it? We probably will. You know how? Because we can usually feel it in our gut. That damn gut that doesn't let us get away with anything. It just can't wait to send a gossipy message to our conscience. Red alert! Red alert! Lie coming in. Oh, brother. Now it's decision time. Do we go with it and take our chances? I've ignored my gut's advice lots of times, and my actions have kicked my butt lots of times, too. Veronica Compton was caught in a serial killer's web of deception and ended up crossing a line she had never anticipated. How did it happen?
This is what he said: "I'm going to be killed soon, and I love you more than anything I've ever loved in my life, Veronica. But I'm sorry, I'll never be able to see you again. They're going to move me to a prison, and Angelo Bono has put a contract on me, and where they're moving me, they're going to murder me. Just know that you've given me the most joy I've ever had in my life. Well, at this point, I'm devastated, right? Because this is somebody I'm seeing every day for 6 months or so, 8 months. You know, he's become a real big part of my life. And there's nothing you can do. I'll be dead in a week. And in my deluded state of mind and stupidly trusting him, I believed him. And I said, well, what can I do? And that was when he came out with this plot. The plot was, if I replicated his crimes, they would then release him because they would say the real serial killer was on the loose.
In our next episode, we will visit again with Veronica as she tells us how her trust and belief in the hillside strangler, Ken Bianchi, caused her to attempt to replicate his crime by killing another woman. I'm Joy Krause. Thanks for listening to this episode of Killer Love Hacks, revealing a relationship love hack often used and definitely abused by serial killers: honesty. I look forward to continuing Veronica's story with you in our next episode, entitled The Loneliness of Companionship. And that wraps up another intriguing case at Killer Love Hacks. If you're itching for more clues on the mysterious ways of love, don't forget to follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or right from our Love Detective headquarters at killerlovehacks.com, so you'll never miss a case. Subscribe, leave a review, and help us spread the word by sharing the podcast with your true crime love detective buddies. Until next time, keep your heart open and your eyes peeled. Who knows where the next clue will lead? Happy sleuthing, Killer Love Hackers!